So this issue gets into the state of the race because some of your supporters are disappointed that your campaign has yet to catch fire the way they would want in terms of polling. One Republican pollster, one who is sympathetic to you, I was asking her about your campaign, and she said she thought the issue was you bumped up at the beginning because voters, Republican voters, saw you as a more electable conservative like Trump, Trump without the baggage. But then they say as you go further and further to the right on some of these divisive social issues that could alienate moderates, suburban moms, et cetera, Republican voters see you as less and less electable. What do you say to that analysis?
Well, I don't think it's true. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I took a state that had been a 1-point state, and we won it by 20 percentage points, 1.5 million votes. Our bread and butter were people like suburban moms. We're leading a big movement for parents' rights, to have the parents be involved in education, school choice, get the indoctrination out of schools. And of course, there's bread and butter issues that matter too. Inflation, more economic opportunity. Florida's economy is ranked #1 of all 50 states. We've worked hard to make that happen. Crime, you see crime in all these different communities that is now even going into suburbs in some areas. So I think that there's a lot of things. I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is I was getting a lot of media attention at the time, coming off the victory. I had to do my job as governor with my legislative session, and we had a great legislative session. We did a lot of great things, actually things that appeal to huge majorities of the population. So I think that analysis is wrong. But I had to do that. And so I was basically taking fire really nonstop since then because a lot of people view me as a threat. I think the left views me as a threat because they think I'll beat Biden and actually deliver on all this stuff. And then, of course, people that have their allegiances within the allegiances in the Republican side, have gone after me. But the reality is this is a state-by-state process. I'm not running a campaign to try to juice, whatever we are in the national polls. I mean, whatever we did in the CNN compared, whatever, it's fine. I'm definitely doing better than everybody else.
But it's state by state, obviously.
It's state by state.
Right.
So we're focused on building an organization. You got to get people to come out in the middle of January in Iowa to caucus for you. That requires an organization, requires to know where those votes are. Now, that is not going to make the same type of splash as if you were trying to run ads nationally or do those other things. And so we've been making really good progress. I think this weekend was really good in terms of the family leader and some of the other things we were doing in Iowa. Of course, we're here in South Carolina. We're going to do a lot in New Hampshire. But that's going to be our focus, focusing on those early states, continuing to build our coalitions and going forward. And I would also just note, Jake, there is a narrative that they're almost trying a little too hard with this to try to say, because they've been saying that I've been doing poorly for my whole time as governor, basically. This is always the case during COVID. Oh, he has a state open, he's going to lose. Then he fought Disney, he's going to lose, and then this. So they always want to get there. It never quite works out. And in fact, I actually remember you did the debate with us in 2018.
Sure.
And before we did the debate on CNN, and you didn't have anything to do with this, CNN released a poll saying I was down like 14 or 15 points. Now, that was the narrative at the time. He's going down. So I think some of this is motivated reasoning, but I kind of get a kick out when they say he didn't fundraise well when I did more than Biden and Trump in the second quarter, and I'm just the governor.
So I didn't believe that poll was accurate, just for the record. Your new policy that you announced today about the military would ban transgender Americans from serving in the military, regardless of their ability. And this comes on the heels of your campaign retweeting a video that the Log Cabin Republicans, which is a conservative LGBTQ group, said, quote, ventured into homophobic territory, unquote. There are more than 1 million trans adults in the U.S. What are their lives and the lives of the people who love and support them going to be like under a DeSantis administration?
Well, look, in the military, it's all about the mission first. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why you focus on mission first. People's individuality, it does take, you do have to check that at the door. And that's not the only example. There's a whole host of other examples. So I think the military culture is unique in terms of that. Now, in terms of the larger issue, the question is, what role does someone that's a man have in women's activities, even if they conceive of themselves to be a woman? I think it's wrong to have men compete in women's sports. And I understand some of those men conceive of themselves differently, but it's not fair to the girls who are competing. It's not fair to the women athletes. The swimmers who lost that national championship to the Penn swimmer, I mean, they've been training too. So I don't think it's good for that. And I think having things like locker rooms where they're having to share with somebody who's of the opposite sex, I think is wrong. So I would respect everybody, but what I wouldn't do is turn society upside down to be able to accommodate, which is a very, very small percentage of the population.
Last question about your military policy, because your new military policy says that Pentagon should never prioritize climate politics over national security. But this week we heard from the Associate Director of Military Affairs for the CIA, who told a room full of National Guard leaders and allies from other countries that climate change supercharges almost every other global threat because of refugees, because of conflicts, because of all sorts of reasons. What's your response to that, the idea that climate politics isn't about politics, it's about national security?
Well, here's the thing. How are you going to equip your fighting force to win? Are you going to put those considerations in? Or are you going to create the most lethal force available? I can tell you, China is not going to use those considerations. If they need to burn more coal to defend their country, they are going to burn more coal to defend their country. So I just don't think it should be a factor in terms of how we project power in this country. Focus on how lethal we can be and focus on getting the mission done. I don't want to force the Department of Defense to be using electric vehicles. I just don't think that that's something that makes any sense.
You entered your candidacy officially for the Republican contest here in South Carolina. Before you go, are you going to win South Carolina?
Yeah, we are. I think this is a great setup for me. I'm the only veteran running. I'll be the first president elected since 1988 that served in a war. There's very few states in this country with a stronger active duty military presence and veteran presence than here. We've also got great support in the upcountry in South Carolina that we're building. And of course, my wife went to college at Charleston, so we know the low country well, and I think we're going to be able to build a lot of support here. So this is a great state for us, and the way the calendar is working out, you're going to have New Hampshire in late July or January, and then here in late February. So we're going to be spending a lot of time. You're going to be spending a lot of time in South Carolina.
All right, Governor DeSantis, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.